Hi, Primas. I'm Roxy.
And I'm Giselle.
And this is the For Las Primas podcast. Welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone.
Okay, so hoy vamos a tener una conversación que, to be honest, many of us try to avoid, especially around our families. We're talking about alcohol and how it shows up in our lives as first-gen Latinas.
If you've ever thought to yourself, do I even feel like drinking, or why do I always feel pressure to have a cocktail at every event? Today's episode, we're talking about being sober curious.
For a lot of us, alcohol is everywhere, from the bautizo to the quince to that Friday night after a stressful week at work.
So we're going to unpack what it means to be sober curious, how alcohol shows up in our culture as Latinas, and our own experience with questioning our drinking habits. No judgment, whether you're cutting back, taking a break, or even just thinking about it. We're here to talk about it all.
Yes, and talking about the cultural role that alcohol plays in our households, to how we might be using it to cope with the pressure of being first gen, and how that sometimes turns into a silent struggle that nobody wants to name. So grab your cafecito or your favorite mocktail and let's get into it. Before we get into it, I just needed to point out my shirt.
I love it.
This is a Selena shirt that I got at Kohl's 3 years ago that I just found en una gaveta. So I was very excited when I found it. And I was like, I have to wear it to the pod today.
Yeah, it's very on brand.
Very on brand. Bitty bitty bomb bomb, baby. You know?
I love it.
Somebody take my mic away. All right, so let's talk about alcohol. I feel like you and I have been on this journey of sober curiosity. I think a lot of people are on this journey right now. And this is such an exciting topic because it's been something that's been a part of my life for a while now. I think I have questioned my alcohol habits and my relationship with my alcohol since my early 20s. And it took being in my 30s to take action.
Yeah, it's been around for us basically forever because our parents always drank and drank around us. I mean, I can remember there's probably a picture of me somewhere holding a beer as a child and then just growing up around it. What really started my journey with being sober curious was my husband was going to do 75 hard, and I was like, okay, I'll join you in the alcohol aspect of it. And then I was like, well, do I really need alcohol? I kind of feel better without it.
That's amazing that you just came to that conclusion too.
Yeah, because I really realized it was more social. Like, I just needed to have a drink in my hand when I'm talking to people and taking sips. You know, I don't know, social anxiety.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And
yeah, when I just replaced it with like a Sprite or sparkling water, I realized there was not really a difference.
Yeah, it's cool to get to the point where you can feel like, oh, I just had a seltzer and I feel fine. Like, I don't need that. It's like a security blanket for a lot of people in social settings. To your point, social anxiety. For me, what happened is the opposite. I had so much hangover anxiety, hangxiety, and I would not remember. Like, there's a term called brown out where you don't black out. You sort of have like spots of things you remember and you don't remember. And that happened to me a lot. And I feel like in my 20s, I would just get drunk and say whatever I wanted. And I realized that it was a very toxic behavior. But I didn't really know what to do about it, you know, because it's not like, especially 10 years ago, it's not like you can go out and there was a ton of alternatives alcohol. So it was either you're home or you're doing like a hobby or something, or you're out. And I love dancing. So for me, dancing and alcohol always came together because obviously Latinos and parties, it's all about the music and the booze and the food, right? So
wait, hangover anxiety? I didn't know that was a term. I feel like I had that.
Totally.
I feel like that was my problem.
There was many nights where we would go out and then wake up in the morning and both be like, oh,
yeah.
Should we just go get a drink and forget that happened?
But I would never black out either. I would brown out. I didn't know that was also a term.
Now it's so cool that there's so many options for people who don't want to drink. Like, I live in Denver, and every single place where you go, there's either any beer, and good any beer, not just like weird nasty tasting.
Like Heineken Zero.
Yeah, like actually, Heineken Zero tastes just like a Heineken to me.
I don't even like Heineken. That's I'm like, ew.
Well, wait, how do you not like Heineken when we grew up on Heineken and Presidente and
That's so true. Hmm. Yeah,
the,
not me. I didn't grow up on.
the Hispanics love green beer, green bottle beer. I don't know what it is. It's green, we'll take it. What year, how old were you when you first drank?
I was 18 and shout out Andrea and Marcos. They took me to my first frat party and that was the first time I drank.
Do you feel like you got very drunk?
Yeah, for sure.
The first time I got drunk, I was like 11 or 12.
Oh my god, scandalous.
I was too advanced. Yeah, I had an older sister. And also, I remember it was like my 12th birthday party, maybe. We went to go eat at a Spanish restaurant, and my mom let me have a sangria. Casually at a restaurant, they just served me a sangria on my 12th birthday. I remember I had like half of it, and I got up and I was so dizzy. And that was like my first memory of being drunk.
But you know they're giving like 11-year-olds wine at mass and stuff.
Totally. Okay, so our alcoholism stems from Catholic Mass. It's a trap.
Seriously. Although I was never allowed to have the wine.
Your mom didn't let you?
I had to bypass it.
That is no fun. I never bypass that shit. I'm like, give it to me. Give it to me right here.
You're like, this is my toll for being here for an hour. Thank you.
Let me get a sip. Let me get a longer sip.
They're like, that's enough.
It starts so early. And also, Hispanic people love to party. And so it's super common for like there to be beer and like alcohol, rum. And I do think drinking is kind of like patriarchal, even in Latin communities.
Mhm.
I remember when I used to get drunk at family parties, I was already 21, like partying with my family, and my dad would be like, Te está pasando, te está pasando. But there was no man at that party que se estaba pasando, that anybody was getting this kind of like in Cuban, we say lee la cartilla, which means like I'm reading the rules to you. Like this is what you need to do. No one else was getting their cartilla leído except for me and my sister. My dad's like, Te está pasando.
No, I remember we did a cruise. They gave you like these weird drink tickets, and I was 21 already. And my dad, since he had like the main room, had everybody's drink tickets. But then I'm like, okay, can I have my drink tickets? I want to get a drink. Like, we just got here, we're on vacation. And he was like, you're an alcoholic, like, went off on me.
And you're like, you're about to have yours in 5 minutes.
I'm like, you're right next to me at the bar. So
I know. I love getting drinks with your dad. Your dad gets so crunk. But yeah, so I think there is like a patriarchal aspect to it. We grew up like around it, and it's kind of unladylike to be the drunk woman at the party. And I just always had that role and title. But it was always in good fun, at least with the family. I feel like what got toxic for me was I just couldn't behave when I was intoxicated. My brain was just so crazy. I would go somewhere else. Like going back to our last episode on Fiery Latina, I had no tools in my toolbox to deal with any of unresolved feelings, unresolved trauma, things of my past. I had no way to cope. And so I coped with alcohol, and I didn't really have a mentor, somebody other than my family who was just like, we're worried about you, to reel me back in. And that was kind of scary, I think, using alcohol as a coping mechanism. And it wasn't until my 30s that I started going to therapy, that I started gaining tools in my toolbox, and be like, it was a really hard thing to admit out loud, but say, I don't think alcohol serves me anymore. It's not to say I don't drink at all. I do drink, but I do notice if I have one drink and then I decide to have another, I don't go for the third one unless I'm on vacation or unless I'm very carefree or in a different environment. But in my day to day, I won't go for the third drink.
I think that's the thing too with alcohol, for me at least. I have one and then I have another and I'm like, okay, I want to party, I want to go out, I want to keep this like flow going, and then you wake up feeling like crap the next day.
No, totally. It's so true. I saw a stat that I want to share here really quick. According to the CDC, Latina women overall drink less than white women, pero that shifts when we look at US born Latinas. Studies show that acculturation, basically adapting to US culture, is linked to higher drinking rates. US born Latinas are twice as likely to binge drink compared to immigrant Latinas. That's about 19% versus 8%. And that is so true. I have seen that in my life play out where, as a first gen, I am very American in a lot of ways, but I'm not fully American in a lot of ways. And I've noticed that, like, women who I've known in college, even in high school, there was a lot of girls that were from Venezuela or from Colombia at the high school that I went to when we moved to Florida first. And they were not into the drinking thing the way the white girls were that I
Mm.
played lacrosse with. And it was so interesting to be in between those two worlds.
Interesting. I never really noticed that, but do you think it's because they limit the drinking age here to 21? Like it feels like it's so monumental to turn 21 and be able to drink freely. And then in other countries, the drinking age is much lower and it's much more casual. And maybe they've just been grown up around it way more and like whatever. And then we turn 21 in the US and everyone is binging.
Yeah, or is binge drinking a privileged thing that, like,
Mm,
people who don't have the money or don't have the time or have to work various jobs don't have that luxury? Maybe. I don't know. This is
true.
full speculation. But I think there is an aspect of assimilation where we go to college and there's this culture of binge drinking in college, and it sort of snowballed for me after that. I didn't really ever come back from that until I was like 28, maybe 29. And then I turned 30 and we did Whole 30. I think it's funny that you did 75 hard. Garrett and I did Whole 30. And that was the first time I went like 28 days without alcohol. It was the longest I'd gone. And I was like, whoa, okay, I actually feel really good. And I remember I had a glass of wine a day 28 because I couldn't make the 30 days. And after that day of drinking, because I didn't just have one glass, I had like half a bottle of wine. And then the next day I woke up feeling like shit. And I was like, damn, I just went 28 days of not feeling like shit. This is not worth it. And that's where my sober curious journey began.
I mentioned before I have a dietitian, and one of our goals, I said it was to cut out the drinking. But I've been drinking like once a month now, which it is hard when you get together with your friends and your family. My mom's birthday was just a couple weeks ago, and we went to a really fun Cuban restaurant, and they had mojito mocktails, which was awesome because I got that, but they were very shocked that I wasn't drinking.
Yeah, no. And then you stop and people are like, oh my God, are you okay? Oh my God, are you pregnant? Oh,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Everyone, the minute I stopped drinking has asked me if I'm pregnant.
yeah. It's like, no, I'm just making a decision for myself. And it is cool because most places now will have mocktails available. Like Denver, you can go out anywhere and there's a mocktail option, which I really love because even if I do have a cocktail, maybe I'll switch to a mocktail.
Your family reacted to you not drinking.
It's been a culture shock for them. I haven't really not drank around them because I don't live near my family. So this year I got really serious about my health and I was like, I really want to see how I can cut alcohol out. But I wanted to see how long I could go. So I tried to do a full year and no way. I don't think I can go a full year, but I went from November to March. So I did about 5 months of no alcohol. And in that time, I didn't see my family because I didn't travel to Florida. But I remember, my especially my uncles are like, wait, so you're gonna come to Florida and you're just not gonna drink? Like, what, we're gonna party. What are you doing? So I think there's an understanding now that these are like things that are important to me and that I mentally feel better when I don't drink because it just gives me so much anxiety. Alcohol provokes so much anxiety, spiraling anxiety. Two drinks one night, the next morning, or if I drink like a few days in a row, like that third day, I just get so anxious and I feel so stressed out and it's really bad. It makes me just spiral in such a real way.
Also, just nice to prove to myself that I can have fun and be a great person without alcohol. So that's been a fun journey.
Yeah, for sure. I felt that way too when I decided to stop drinking and I would go out. I'm like, I don't really want to stay out past 9 o'clock. Like, what am I doing out? There's nothing to do. And then I was like, no, you like to dance, you like
Mhm.
to go out, like, test it, see how it goes. And I did start to get good at it. We went out with our friends one night. We went to a comedy show and then we went to a karaoke bar and I was just dancing and singing. And I remember my girlfriend was like, dude, you're having the best time and you're not, and her husband didn't know I wasn't drinking. He's like, you're not even drinking? This is just how you are? I was like, yeah, it is how I am. And it does make you feel so good to know that you feel good in your own body and being yourself.
I've never felt more myself and confident going out now that I'm not drinking versus before where I was like I need to drink before. Drinking felt like a rush when you start at one bar and you're like how many drinks can I get down before I get to the next bar because I just need to be tipsy already.
No, the rush to be tipsy is insane.
Mhm. It's crazy.
I don't know how I drank so much. I had such a high tolerance for so many years in my life. And I'm like, now I have an IPA and I'm like, whoa, what are we doing? Let's go. I feel so buzzed off one beer. Fun fact. And Giselle was 19. I took her to her first 21 and up bar.
That
I
was fun.
It was you and your cousin Camille, and you were with me and one of my girlfriends, Grace, and we went to our local bar where we knew everybody. And I was like, all right, Grace, we're gonna get them in. Grace is the best. She's so casual. She was just like, we got this. Grace grabbed you, I grabbed Camille, we walked through the door, and that was it. And I remember you were so excited. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I had a 21 bar. It's always so exciting your first time.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Feeling it felt like, oh my gosh, I don't have to show my ID. I can just go up to the bar, order whatever I want. I remember you were like talking to the bouncer and you were like, go, go, go. So we could just like run.
I was good at distracting.
Yeah.
But then Giselle ordered this blue drink, and I'm like, "What did you just order? Nobody orders that. You can't be ordering these like Midori sour is what you got." I think it was green.
Yes, because that's what we were drinking at UCF bars.
I was like, Giselle, nobody drinks this. Get another drink. But I always have sort of like like a big sister badge for that moment.
Totally, totally. And the fun thing that I've been doing lately when I go out to restaurants with my husband is now that I didn't get a drink, I'm gonna get dessert.
Yes. Yeah. I feel that way too. I definitely have done that. I'm like, okay, let's go for ice cream, where I would have skipped the ice cream because
Mhm.
what the alcohol is the dessert. There's a book that I read a few years ago that definitely changed my whole perspective and mindset around alcohol. It's called How to Be Sober in a World That's Obsessed with Alcohol. And there were so many pieces of that book that really resonated with me. And some of it included you don't need to hit rock bottom to decide that alcohol doesn't serve you. I think when people started to become sober curious and were like, no, I'm not drinking, there was this like negative connotation around addiction and AA and all of these things. And I felt like, no, I'm not going to AA. No, I'm not an addict. And I was so scared of all of those stigmas. And reading that book really changed my perspective because, first of all, who cares what anybody thinks about your decisions that you're making for your health in your life? But also, there's this line where she said, sober isn't a punishment, it's a powerful choice. And it's a way to reframe sobriety as empowerment and not restriction, or not negatively associating it with, I don't know, addiction, I guess. I was so scared to be called an addict. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. I know what my journey is. I know why I stopped drinking. And I think there's a stigma around people who don't want to drink and associating that with like, oh, well, you must be an addict. And addict means such a negative word that it all feels so icky. And it's like, can we just leave all, like, let people decide what they want to do, like no labels.
Totally. Like, stop asking people why they're not drinking.
Yes, it's so rude.
Like, it's not even your business.
There's nothing wrong with addiction and realizing that you have a problem and realizing that you need help. I've never said it out loud in this way, but I definitely do have addictive personality, and there are aspects of my drinking, like my binge drinking or the way I drank before was so unhealthy and it wasn't making me feel good. You can quit alcohol without labeling yourself or without labeling it, and that's okay.
That quote that she said, your sobriety is a powerful choice.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it is because it's hard when everybody around you is ordering a drink. Sometimes I feel like if you don't really have a reason, then people really pressure you to have a drink
Yeah.
because they don't think that you making the decision to be sober is enough to not have a drink.
Yeah. And one more thing that she said that I think really relates to what you were saying earlier is sobriety isn't just about quitting, it's about becoming. So, what does it look like to go out and have a sober night when everybody's drinking and staying out till like 1, 2 in the morning? Like, what does that look like without alcohol? It can still look great and super
Mhm.
fun.
And I used to get so annoyed at my husband or any significant other when they were drinking a lot and getting drunk. But I was also getting drunk. And when I stopped drinking, now I'm not that annoyed anymore.
You're actually a very fun person to go out drinking with. You're probably one of my favorite people to go out drinking with.
Oh, I feel like I drink and I have a fun time.
Yeah.
Um, Seldom do I want to fight people, mostly men.
But that is not different from when you drink alcohol to when you don't. We're always fighting the patriarchy out here, you know? I used to be a very angry drunk, depending on what I drank, but used to be very angry. But anything that I was feeling, especially in my 20s, because I didn't work through any of those feelings, when I drank to mask them, it was you never knew what you were gonna get. You never knew which Roxy was gonna come out. You never knew which emotion I was gonna hang on to. And I feel really bad for people that had to deal with me. I'm gonna shout out my best friend Chad. I think he had to deal with me the most in situations, but I'm thankful that it all led me here and that now I feel like I have all the language that I need to talk about how I feel, write down my emotions. I do a lot of journaling and figuring out what's at the root of what's making me want to drink because I've realized in stopping to drink that when I get that itch, like, ugh, I just kind of want to get tipsy. Like, why? What
Mhm.
are you avoiding right now? And when I've sat with those feelings and those emotions, then I realize actually I don't need a drink. I just need to go for a walk and think about this, or I need to journal or
This has also helped me. Emotion that I always need to deal with is anger. I don't know what's going on, what happened in my past life that is trying to come and manifest themselves through anger. Like, please, déjame en paz. Sometimes you want to come out, but tennis has helped because I can just like hit that ball as hard as I want.
Totally. I think it's such a brave decision to decide that you don't want to drink or that you want to cut down on your drinking or even just the beginning of that process is just so important to your overall health. And I think more than anything you and I have realized that it's important for our mental health more than anything else because of anxiety and just not knowing what happened or yeah, alcohol is a toxin.
Doing all these things now, I feel like I'm doing it for future me. 60-year-old me, 70-year-old me isn't gonna have these problems.
Yeah, our future selves and our children, right? Like your future children. My son will be like, "What are you drinking? Can I have some?" And I was always having a cocktail until one day I was like, "Yeah, you can drink this. I'm going to drink a mocktail." And so we make a lot of mocktails at home. We try to have fun with it. So now when we go out to eat, Max will be like, "Can I have a mocktail?" But to him, it's like just like a drink that's like juice and fun and seltzer and bubbly. And I've loved that mind shift because I can share drinks with him and I don't have to worry about explaining. But I do want to mention that there is such a toxic mommy wine culture around parenting that I also hate. And so I feel like not drinking is an act of rebellion against that culture because I don't need a drink to mask my parenting. Parenting is hard. I want to talk about it. I want to feel my feelings, but I don't want to mask it and complain about my kids and sit around and drink wine.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. Mommy drinking culture. It's kind of insane.
I also love that you're always shouting out these books because you read so many good self-help books.
She is one mentee be away from losing it at any given time. So
I love it though. I haven't opened a self-help book.
that book was recommended to me. And honestly, one of the biggest things that I feel, I'm such a justice warrior. And the book starts off by talking about how cigarettes were marketed in the 50s and 60s, especially towards housewives. And so it's all about marketing. And so alcohol has also been super marketed and marketed towards women very specifically. And I don't want to fall into any trap. I'm like, oh, you gonna market to me? Oh, screw you. Guess what? I'm unsubscribing. But I think it's just my rebellion, my rebellious nature that makes me feel so angry about how alcohol has been used to like weaponize people and keep them down in society.
Which is also why I love mocktails because they're so cute and I can still post my Instagram stories with them.
What is your alcohol of choice when you do drink?
So I will say, I was a vodka and Sprite girl for a long time. Tito's and Sprite. Until we went to Mexico and I really changed to mezcal. Love the mezcal.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I used to be a big tequila drinker, and after my long time of not drinking, anytime I have a cocktail, all I taste is like the tequila. I feel so strong now that I actually don't like it. So I have been gravitating. Red wine is always a go-to. I love Chianti. It's probably my favorite. And beer. I love beer so much. The problem is body dysmorphia. I've been drinking because my toxic trait is if the sun is out, I need a patio and a beer. And by have a beer, I only have one, which is annoying because it's not enough to like get me tipsy, but it's enough to give me those calories. And I'm already feeling like I'm gaining weight.
It's not enough to get you tipsy, but then you're drinking your calories. But
But
the sun out with a cold beer is always like so refreshing.
So nice. Not a green beer, just beer. This is the thing that I've realized in this process is I tried to be so rigid. So I've tried to go sober and sober periods of my life many times since I turned 29. I'm so hard on myself when I backtrack, and there's just no right way to do it. There's your way, and you find the balance that works for you. I've realized I want to cut down on alcohol significantly, and I don't want to deprive myself if I feel like I want to go have a few beers. So what is the balance of that? Only I know. Only I can figure that out for myself. And so anybody who's on this journey, you can do it. You just have to find the right balance for you. Like everything else, there's no right way or wrong way to do it. Unless you decide that you're just going to live a sober lifestyle, and that's great. But if you deviate from that, you're also still honoring yourself and like figure out a way to forgive yourself and start new. I think in this journey, I have felt so mad at myself, like I'm failing myself, I'm not doing this right. And really, it's different seasons call for different feelings, and we're 4 different people in a month, and you just have to show yourself kindness in the process. Well, this has been fun. I think for anyone who is going through a sober curious moment or wants to talk about or share their experience, please share with us. We love talking about this. We love figuring out new mocktails, or we love trying out new mocktails. We love figuring out new ways to reframe our mindsets. There's so many alcohol alternatives out there. We'd love to hear what you have that you love so we can try it too.
Yes, ditto. Cafecito and cheese.
Cafecito and cheese. What you got?
So I have some more Blake Lively Baldoni drama.
You were gonna say Jojo Siwa because I'm still on the last piece of about her, but okay.
So update, recently Travis Kelce unfollowed Ryan Reynolds on social media, and there was a video of a fan like asking him, what do you think about Travis Kelce unfollowing you? And he just completely ignored her and dodged the question and moved on.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it looks like T Swift is not really friends with her anymore, and she's getting subpoenaed too.
Wow. I love it because she used it so much. Like, oh, these are my besties. These are my besties. Todas las besties te dejaron ahí chichi sola para que sufra.
But I only really have one more thing, and it was the Giggly Squad tries things. Have you seen?
I saw the first episode and it was so funny.
It's so good. The editing is so good. I think their assistant Grace does the editing. That's the only podcast I feel like we're gonna shout out on our podcast is Giggly Squad because they're like such an inspiration. Love them. And their little tries things is like 30 minutes clips of them just doing random things, but it's so funny and it's so light and it's such a good way to just watch something dumb for 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I like about Giggly Squad is it sort of takes you out of your reality of all the things that are happening and it pushes you into this state of just kind of like fun, carefree thinking. Like it feels like I'm just sitting in a room gossiping with girlfriends is the feeling I get.
Yeah, literally. I took a 30-minute studying break today just to watch it and just like relax my mind.
I love Giggly Squad. I will say it's a bittersweet because I do feel like there is a time and space for everything, but for how girl power they are, I wish they got into it a little bit more about
Yeah.
politics or like real things that are happening because they have such a big platform that
Mhm.
it feels, going back to my injustice, it just feels like they have a big platform and they could do more with that. Speaking of things that are going on and injustices, one current event that I did want to highlight on the show that has me so angry is white South African refugees allowed to come to the US. Supposedly, they're so oppressed in their country, which is all false. But this is happening, and they're bringing them on a. They brought them on a charter plane. They gave them a beautiful welcome. They get all of these government benefits. They get a place to live. They get a furnished home. They get a sum of money. They get food stamps. They get all of these benefits, and all of that is happening at the same time that Latino families who have lived here for generations pay taxes, have jobs, contribute to the economy are being deported, whether it doesn't matter what their legal status is.
Right. Being told to self-deport, actually.
Yeah. And now the new incentive of being told to self deport. So, to any of our listeners who are out there who are Latinos, who are undocumented, who are residents, who have a green card but don't have a citizen, like don't have their citizenship, we are here and we see you and we love you. And all immigrants are worthy. They are worthy of resources. They're worthy of a safe space. And I just can't even imagine how scary it must be for people who are being deported after going to their regular immigration check-in, and you don't know if they're being sent back to their country. You don't know if they're being sent to prison, if they're being sent, where they're being sent to. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to acknowledge that and let you know that we are both so angry about this.
If anybody hasn't watched the TikTok video by Hassan Abi, he is a Twitch streamer that
Yeah.
went out of the country and then came back, and he talks a lot on his live streams about politics and about the president, and he got pulled aside and detained by border control when he was coming back into the US, and he's a US born first generation. So if you haven't watched that TikTok video, watch it because it really I mean, I knew it was happening, but for someone to be like brave enough to just say everything that happened, and he's like, I'm not afraid to fight back because I have the money and the resources and the privilege to, so I'm going to talk about it.
Good. Everybody should talk about it. We will continue to drop nuggets and bring light to conversations about really hard situations that are happening with our Latino generations, and we stand with our immigrant communities. We're here and we love you all so much and you belong here.
Yes, definitely.
So on that note, I think that's all that we have for today. Thank you all so much for listening and we'll see you next time.
Bye.